Hello, I'm Tiki,
Hi. And I'm Monkey.
and tonight we're going to take you through the fascinating and wonderful world of direct-to-video Disney sequels. Isn't that right, Monkey?
Yes, that is correct. We're
All
even
right.
including some that technically aren't DisneyToons, bitches.
Hashtag we need to make it around 30, god damn it. That's a long hashtag.
And yeah, we didn't, and for what it's worth, no, we didn't do any Tinkerbell ones.
No Tinkerbell, that's already been pretty pre-established. No theatrical
No
stuff
Tinkerbell,
either,
no.
Unfortunately.
No Very Merry Pooh year.
No. No Hercules Zero to Hero. That did not make the cut, nor did Tarzan and Jane. But you know what did make the cut, Monkey? Because we're going in order. We're going to do this. This is the first time that we're doing this with the ranking, where we're going to start with our number one. We're going to start with the best. And then through the three-part series, we're going to work all the way up to what we think is the absolute worst DisneyToons production, direct-to-video sequel.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, Monkey, you want to know what did make the cut?
I suppose so. You know, if I may, just a little full disclosure. So these movies are a little more fresh in your mind than they were for me. So that may affect how much I can voice on them.
Yeah, fair enough. I did make a point to go back and watch literally everything on the list again.
Oh, you actually watched them twice, so... I was
Well,
considering
I
getting to some of them twice, but I didn't have time.
I just meant like, you know, like I had that wheel that I was spinning. And so I watched through all the list one time a piece. Some of them I'd seen before, though.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, but without the randomizer, I went chronologically.
Oh, I thought the randomizer was a fun addition.
Oh, it does sound like a fun way to do it. Maybe another time. But anyway,
right, so Monkey, I'm trying to make this transition. Do you have anything else to say?
Not that I remember.
Okay, so Tarzan and Jane didn't make the list, but you know what did make the list? My number one, Tarzan 2.
Good choice. Yeah, this was almost my number one.
So I actually just watched this movie. This is one of the last ones that hit on the randomizer, and it's funny because I knew I was going to like this. I knew I had George Carlin in it, and that's all I really needed. But we get that trio of gorillas as the villains, and they really, I think, kind of like add to the comedy of the movie. George Carlin adds a lot of pathos. I feel like George Carlin's arc in this movie is it kind of gives me a little bit of Pigeon Man vibes, which is really cool, I think. I don't know.
Pigeon Man was antagonizing people.
Right.
I can absolutely hear George Carlin saying, "It's people I don't understand.
It's people I don't understand, Arnold." Speaking of George Carlin, I was pleasantly surprised to see how much of an actual like voiceover performance he was doing, as opposed to just kind of like doing his sort of stand-up character throughout the whole movie. Like, he really does give it his all. It does sound like, you know, an actual like voiceover presence, and that was nice. The animation, it's not quite as good as the original, but when it goes hard, it goes really hard. I do like the Phil Collins songs. I think the fact that they got Phil Collins back to do a couple more new songs definitely gives this an air of credibility that I don't think a lot of the other sequels really have.
Yeah.
And I will say, Monkey, at the very end of the movie, I was kind of thinking to myself, wait a minute, Tarzan has not done his iconic roar. And I swear to God, I had to do the roar. Do the roar. And he did. He did the roar, and I was happy. I clapped because I knew what it was.
You know, it's funny. I remember seeing like the end of this movie years ago at a waiting room at a doctor's office or something. And one of the couple things I did specifically remember was that it ended with him doing the roar.
Do the roar. Yeah.
Yell.
Technically, I think it's a yell, but you know what?
Yeah, yell.
Anyways.
Here, yeller, Tarzan.
Okay,
yeller.
let's see. Z and K says, what you could do is also make the middle entry a bloated 15. That kind of evens it out. Yeah, I don't know. We went with an even 30. I'm sorry. Okay, we got Itchy Lot Productions. Happy to have you. Z and K says more like Pigeon Man by way of Stoop Kid. Yeah, I can see that. It's been kind of a combination of the two a little bit. All right, Itchy Lot. I'm just not sure what you're referring to in your comments, so I'm not necessarily going to read it.
I love you, Daddy. That's from Do the Roar.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah. I love you, Daddy. Okay, thank you, Monkey. Thank you.
It was just, I don't see how this could happen, but I'm now imagining young Tarzan saying that to Kerchak.
I love you, Daddy. Speaking of the young characters, I thought that young Turk was really fun in this movie.
Right, yeah.
And Kala actually has a lot of emotion. Young Turk doing the Kala and Kerchak impressions. Oh my god, I love that. Yeah.
And one of them did a Wizard of Oz homage with the I do believe in Zugo. I do believe in Zugo. Much appreciated.
So yeah, just overall, I think this is just the pathos, the comedy. I think the comedy really hits. I think the animation is just about on point with the original. It's just not as much of a spectacle. You got Phil Collins there to kind of like make it feel like it's a lot more in line with the universe than a lot of these other sequels. I think it's a solid number 1.
Yeah.
All right.
Like I said,
Monkey, what is your number 1?
So I wound up giving my number 1 to Cinderella 3: A Twist in Time, aka Suzanne Blakesley has a magic wand that's never happened in animation before. Like I said, it was a bit of a close one, and Tarzan 2 certainly has the stronger songs, but with Cinderella 3, it's one of those things I'd heard going in, like, oh, this is one of the good ones, and yeah, it's got a good story, it's got some decent comedy, some actual laugh out loud moments in there. You got some sweet stuff in there, like especially that part where the king is talking with Anastasia privately, and that you even have that action scene on the carriage that works.
Yeah, that I think that might be my favorite scene in the whole movie. That whole demented carriage scene.
Yeah, it's like they really do some throw shit at the wall and with turning Lucifer into things. My one point against it, I guess, is that I wasn't super nuts on the songs, but yeah, like I said, a close call, and I guess this one just sort of edged it up a little. I guess in a sense of like it has everything. Or a lot of things, and it does them nicely. And of course, you even have the prince saying, no, it's not the slipper, it's the girl in the slipper. You hear that, people, making little criticisms about the original movie? That's what it is, and we're doing that acknowledgement smoothly in our dialogue. Take that! I'm C.D. Barnes, bitches!
All right. Okay, Z and K says, now, I think I'll grunt impressively. Is a random line I think of a lot. Yeah, that's a great line.
Honestly, that's a good line to think of a lot.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Itchy Lot
step down the stairs. Yeah, I'd known that gag going in. It's one of those.
Oh yeah, definitely. I literally have on my wheel, Monkey. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but some of them I just put the meme associated with the movie. So, for example, like obviously with Little Mermaid 2, Ursula's crazy sister. With this, I just have Prince Charming jumping out a window.
Yeah.
Oh, God. There's a few others that I did that with. Not too many of them.
I look forward to potentially hearing about the others.
All right. Okay, so yeah, let's get to the number 2 slot. I have to look. Let me see. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, number 2. This is much more of a childhood nostalgic favorite. and there are some flaws with it, but I don't care because nostalgia, baby. We're doing Aladdin and the King of Thieves.
Yeah.
So I think
Solid.
that the father-son relationship in this movie is obviously one of the best in DisneyToons, but honestly, I genuinely think it might be one of the most compelling father-son relationships in all of like Disney animation, period. John Rhys Davies, he just absolutely melts my heart. I think his character is just super compelling. And I do think that a lot of the movie is held on his back. I think as much as I love Robin Williams, and we all do, we all adore Robin Williams, I think he's honestly in it a little bit too much. I think the genie stuff almost kind of distracts from the rest of the movie in a lot of ways. But I just the arc with the father it's just too good. It's just I just think it hits all the right notes. I just think it's just very compelling. And I think the addition of the 40 thieves and the lore to Agrabah, the world building. I don't know. I just think and just the fact that, again, like much like Cinderella, the fact that the third movie might arguably be the best one out of the trilogy. I mean, it definitely isn't as ambitious as the first movie. It definitely doesn't have like the songs, but I think that as far as like character work goes, I think it's just as compelling with the father-son stuff. So yeah, Aladdin the King of Thieves, definitely a childhood favorite, but rewatching it definitely held up, except for some of the genie stuff was a little annoying. But you know what? Again, it's hard to argue with Robin Williams. So, all right. Inchlot Production says the Code Red scene is pure Robin Williams zaniness, right, the best way possible. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. The parallel between the Aladdin trilogy and the Indiana Jones trilogy is just too perfect to think about. Yeah, it is. I definitely noticed that for sure. Return of Jafar is definitely the weird, darker one out of the three.
Yeah, I love that part where Jafar pulls someone's heart out of his chest. But it turns out it was the fire eater, so putting him into the lava, he just ate up the lava.
All right. Yeah, they originally wanted Sean Connery. Thank God they got John Rhys Davies, though. I think John Rhys Davies I think he worked so perfectly in this role. I think it's so good. It's so good. All right, Monkey, what's your number 2?
So my number 2 is Tarzan 2.
There we go. There it is.
AKA the first rule of Zugor is you do not talk about Zugor. And yeah, Zugor would totally splice a pornographic frame into a film reel.
Oh, God.
But yeah, so like I said, close second, but this was absolutely one of the highlights of going through this list. You got a decent conflict for Tarzan. You have that scene with Kala showing him like, oh, the strong tree on its own that fell, and then now all
that's a really, really good visual metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that part when the tree's falling, and you get the slow motion of the thing slapping Kala and Tarzan's hand falling away. So effectively done. Estelle Harris, she actually gets some genuine menace in here. Oh, the part where it's like, I made you a nest. Oh, my heart.
Yeah, just those three working off of each other is just they're just because from what I've heard about this movie, it's like I heard that the villains are the weakest part, but honestly, like they're not intimidating, but as a comedic duo, or a comedic trio, they work really well, and they do have some.
I don't think they're weak.
Honestly. Yeah, I agree. I
mean, and they are a bit intimidating. Like I said, some of the stuff with like Estelle Harris getting carried away with the story about dogs, I think it was.
Yeah, right.
The little baby gorillas hanging around. There's a bit cutesy, but at the same time, baby gorillas are cute. Yes. But yeah, it is like I said, a real highlight of this one. A close second.
All right, cool. Moving right along. Z&K says Estelle Harris is one of those pictures you can hear personified.
I'm not sure if it was I'm not sure if it was just because she made a noise or something beforehand, but somehow, like, I wondered, like, is this going to be Estelle Harris right before she started speaking?
Right. Yeah, I get what you're saying, ZNK. Okay, let's see. Number 3 for me, and it's actually really appropriate that it's number 3 because it's Mickey, Donald, Goofy, and the Three Musketeers. Which, I gotta say, honestly, out of a lot of things on this list, this might be the one that's kind of stretching it, where it's like, it's not really a sequel, right? But it is DisneyToons, and I think it's DisneyToons at its best.
It's a direct-to-video movie.
Yeah, as a direct-to-video DisneyToons movie. I think that this is just so rock solid, and the fact that it's such a solid throwback to like old school Mickey Mouse shenanigans. You know me, I'm a huge Donald Duck fan. I effing love Donald Duck's running chicken gag. It's so freaking stupid and ridiculous. I love Clarabelle Cow being genuinely menacing. Like, talk about someone that you don't really expect to be genuinely menacing. But she's
she's the same voice actor as Miss Finster, right?
No, I did not. That's wonderful.
Now you know.
Oh God. You know what? The public domain songs, like, on some level, it's a little lazy, but I will say, at least they're memorable tunes and they go all out with the production value. And to that extent, I do think that as a musical, this works better than a lot of other DisneyToons movies work as musicals. Because, like, you can tell that some real effort went into the songs, even though they are public domain tunes.
And you're guaranteed that they have melodies.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So yeah, Pete is the villain, just classic. Can't pass that up. The animation, I think, is definitely among the best in DisneyToons. Just genuinely rock solid. I really have nothing to complain about. Honestly, like, one of the only reasons it's not number 1 or number 2 is just the factor of, like, it's like, I think the other two that are above it, I think, impressed me a little bit more as far as, like, building out their world and expanding the original source material, whereas this is just a really rock solid standalone thing. Okay, let's see. Just going through some comments here. Kogias, I don't know. I think the best you're gonna hope for with DisneyToons and Frozen is maybe like a Tangled series, like the Tangled animated series treatment. Okay, Itchy Lap Productions says, this year I lost my dear husband, Edgar. Quit telling everyone I'm dead. Sometimes I can still hear his voice.
I noticed ENK mentioning how someone on Tumblr gave a great analysis on Donald's leaving and the deeper meaning. That would be cool to find.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, I really
didn't leave because he was a coward. He left because he felt useless, essentially. Yeah. So, I'm completely useless. Wow, that could have gone a lot more smoothly.
A for effort.
Yeah.
All right. Who would have guessed the Can would work so well as a Musketeers theme song? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving right along. Monkey, what is your number 3?
My number 3, which essentially was my number 1 until Tarzan swung along, was Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas.
Total nostalgia here.
Yeah, not to be confused with Mickey's Once, the one where Mickey is a depressed Irish songwriter.
Oddly enough, I do think Once would work as like a Mickey mini piece, honestly.
Yeah, so, oh God, I would have fun casting that. Anyway, so these 3 right here, I feel are like, okay, these 3 are the cream of the crop from my experience here. This one is so charming. Like, this isn't even a huge nostalgic one for me. Before this, I'd only seen it all the way through definitely at least twice. Yeah, so going to this one,
it was one of my cousins and I. It was one of our favorites to watch around Christmas time on VHS. So it's very nostalgic to me.
I can't blame you. It is very charming. It's got some really nice Christmas feels. Like even like by the time it's only 1 minute in and the titles appear, it's like, yes, these are some good Christmas feels. Please get me to Main Street at Christmas time. Yeah, all the segments are decent. I feel like the one that I have the most to really make note of standout moments is the Goofy one. I mean, yeah, they should have left Santa ambiguous, but still, you got his late night devotion to proving that Santa's real is so touching. And on this viewing, I did get almost misty-eyed during that last bit of dialogue when they're talking about what Goofy wants for Christmas every year. And he gets it. Like, oh, yes. And also we have that, whatever that line was about, like, oh, of course there's a Santa. Otherwise, there'd be a lot of out-of-work elves running around. Nicely done. We got that Firehouse 5 reference. Appreciate it. We really should greet more people with Merry Christmas, Mr. Crazy Pete.
God.
Speaking of that segment, how was your Christmas Eve, Mickey? Oh, gee, Jim Cummings got mad at me for not selling Jim Cummings an expensive tree. Then Jim Cummings recruited me for a toy drive, and then I sold my harmonica to Jim Cummings.
That went smoother than Donald.
There was a point where it's like, my God, is Jim Cummings in all of these things? In all of these movies?
The answer is no, but... But, like, it seems like it, though. It seems like he's in a majority of them.
Yeah. And then you, like, just look at all the characters he voices in this movie alone. I need to close some blinds for a sec, so keep going. I'll be back in a moment.
Okay, Aquatad, yes, we are ranking them from best to worst. Let's see, since you're just showing up, we will...
Okay, I'm returned.
Okay, let's just go over our lists, our 1 through 3 really quick, just to keep people up to date who might have just been popping in. So for me, I have number 1, Tarzan 2, number 2, Aladdin and the King of Thieves, number 3, Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, the Three Musketeers.
Then for me, my number 1 was Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time, number 2 is Tarzan 2, and number 3 is Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas.
All right. Moving on, number 4, Monkey, affectionately known on my wheel as A Prince Does Not Woo. Ooh. We got Bambi 2.
Good choice, bro.
Yeah, this one floored me. This one definitely was the absolute biggest surprise of the whole watch. There was a long while before I got into, like, I honestly did not know if stuff like King of Thieves was going to top this. Like, ultimately it did, but that's mostly just for nostalgia. Like, I think that just standalone, the sequence where man, quote unquote man, uses the deer call to lure Bambi out into the middle of the meadow, using the mother's distorted voice. Jesus Christ, that's that's as good as anything that's in the original movie.
I'm kind of getting goosebumps just now.
Yeah, it's an incredible sequence.
Yeah, you mentioned, like, in Messenger, I think I might not have even started actually watching through all these yet, but you mentioned something about how, like, there was a part in Bambi 2 that genuinely shook you.
Yes.
Yeah, my guess was correct as to what it is. I mean, my guess, once I'd finally seen the movie, I'd not seen it before.
Oh man, yeah. The rest of the movie is really good. I think the Patrick Stewart bonding stuff, once again, a really solid father-son dynamic. I feel like a few of these have really good father-son dynamics. And this one is one of the better ones. I think the animation, while not quite as, like, oh my God, it's fucking gorgeous. Literally every frame of this should be in a museum. As the
it belongs in a museum. Disneyland shouldn't be a museum.
No, seriously, that's kind of, if I could, like, that, the original Bambi and the original Fantasia, those are the two where it's like, those, like, every frame of those movies should be in a museum. But anyways, so it's not quite as, like, super artistic, but it's good. It's impressive. I think it looks good. I think some of the side characters are a little wonky. I'm not sure how I feel about the bully deer. I feel like he's on some level, I think he's so annoying that you do kind of just like it's fun to hate him. On another level, he's just kind of like his presence sometimes just kind of drags things down. I do
You
think that
challenges Bambi to a race to save the community center.
God, I do think that the shenanigans going on with Thumper's sisters is a little too cutesy. It's a little too like, yeah, we need to drive that engagement for the kid crowd.
Yeah, that's kind of my one big note about the movie.
Right.
Sizable note.
Right. But I think characters like Thumper, or I'm sorry, like Flower and Friend Owl get a little bit more to do than they did in the original, which is nice. So that kind of evens things out. Ultimately, just a really, really solid father-son bonding story, and it's also I appreciate that they really went out of their way to make this a meditation about grief and loss, and I think I think it's definitely like you really can't call this a cash-in at all, because they really went out of their way to be respectful about that subject matter when they were doing this. And also, just to shout out the fun fact, I think you probably know this, but this movie still holds the record for the longest gap in between the first movie and the second movie. Like, as far as like when they came out. I actually
knew that.
Yeah. Okay, Kokias saying, I remember watching Bambi 2 and it was just awful. Well, I'm sorry, Kokias. Subjectivity and all that. Let's see. Itchy Lot says Patrick Stewart is a great prince. It's probably one of the greatest casting in any of the Disney direct-to-video sequels. Yeah, I would agree.
Man, that could be a list, ranking the casting in these sequels.
It could be. Or at least
I'm not saying I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Little Blue saying, a prince does not woo. Ooh, indeed.
Oh, ZNK. That's an interesting fact, ZNK. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm trying to remember if I recognized Andreas Dage's name in the credits. It's possible.
I think so. Okay, that's the deer who later fights adult Bambi for fleeing. Yes, I know. They set it up very blatantly. I think pretty clumsily. Like, we're going to fight later in life, Bambi. Don't you worry.
Just picturing him just saying that to Bambi every time. We're going to fight later in life. 16 hours, 49 seconds till you die. So Bambi then just goes, I'm crazy.
Okay, Kokias says, Kokias, honestly, if you just watched it like once and it was like a long time ago, give it another shot. I think it's really like I said, at least like the element of it being like a genuinely thoughtful meditation about grief and loss. I mean, I think you can't argue with that. There is a reason for this to exist. And, in a list like this, sometimes that alone is enough. Let's see. Little Blue, my number 3 was The Three Musketeers. All right. I'm pretty sure
I need to watch the rest of these. Well, yeah, some of these you need to watch. Or
yeah.
I'd recommend watching. Some of them... but that's a later entry on this list, a later installment of this series.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that everything on this list is genuinely, like, at least good, right? In the top 10.
All of these are worth a watch.
Yeah. All right, Monkey, you're number 4.
My number 4, I wound up giving to an extremely goofy movie, aka The Goof, or Who is Sylvia? Points if you get that reference, people.
So this movie, I'm just going to point out really quick. I know it's up there for a lot of people. I just don't like college movies. College movies are just not my thing. Maybe it's because I had a very negative experience in college, but I digress.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, honestly, just in that early batch of movies to watch, this one turned out to be a highlight for me. I mean, yeah, the ESPN product placement is a bit weird, but nevertheless, it was an enjoyable ride. The portrayal of the Goofy Max dynamic had a decent balance or something to it, where certain aspects of it aren't too unbearable. Not to mention, damn, that scene of Goofy after Max leaves for college.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the most memorable part of the whole thing for sure.
Also, how the hell is the toy company that Goofy works at more depressing than the toy company from Family Guy? That's the sort of thing you wouldn't expect. Yeah, so that, and I also just want to point out at the beginning when the dads and sons are having the barbecue, where's Pauly Shore's dad? So I guess his father finally let him leave to be on his own with the whole world to see.
Oh God. That's true. That's
So,
true.
yeah.
I didn't think about that.
So yeah, this one was a pretty good time for me.
All right, solid. Okay, let's see. Comments. We have part 3 is must watch. Part 2 is kind of sorta. Part 1 is much watch. Part 2 is the kind of sorta. Part 3 is avoid. Yeah, more or less.
More or
Little
less.
Blue says, the Three Musketeers, there was a different planned Mickey Mouse short. The Basil of Baker Street would have been helping out finding Mickey. That's interesting. Yeah, I think I have heard about that. Yeah. All right. Zine K says this has to be a dated mishmash. The aesthetic of the 70s and an 80s college flick mixed with the 90s sports flick coming out over 30 years after all of that. Yeah, it is a little bit of a mismatch.
But it didn't bother me, but you're not wrong.
You even have some 60s beatnik culture. Just a little dash of that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm guessing Beret Girl awakened a lot of people.
All right, yeah, Aquatad, we'll definitely, I think it's safe to assume that Atlantis Milo Returns is not going to be in either of our top 10 lists. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, I think Great Mouse Detective is one of those where I think it would have naturally lent itself to a sequel too, because I feel like, much like Sherlock Holmes, that character can it's kind of evergreen as far as the amount of stories you can tell with him.
Basil winds up on an island with Edward Norton and Janelle Monáe.
Oh God.
Father and son from the first one. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys, but I do acknowledge that this is very much a nostalgic favorite for a lot of people, and just a favorite for a lot of people. And I know it's not really nostalgic for you, so
Yeah, it's not quite nostalgic for me either. For what it's worth. Yeah, you mentioned also Bradley's like Kuzco if he drunk a dog potion and got stuck in transformation. So I was wondering,
Oh my God! Oh, now that he said it, I can't unsee it. Oh God!
You totally could do a thing, and whenever they say Brad's name, you could do the Rocky Horror bit. Have the audience go, "Asshole!"
Right.
This isn't even the movie with Barry Bostwick in it.
I will say Bradley Upper Crust is probably my favorite element of an extremely goofy movie. I will give it that much. All right, just some Great Mouse Detective 2 stuff going on here in the comments. Let's move on to number 5. Okay, for me, it is going to be Lilo and Stitch 2. Stitch has a glitch. So here's the thing, Monkey. I feel like if I would have watched this movie immediately around the time that I got my Stitch tattoo and I was really all in on the whole, Lilo and Stitch being a personal metaphor about autism and everything, this would have been 10 out of 10s, no notes, absolutely the number one. And I do think this movie is fantastic. I genuinely, there is some absolutely, it really surprises me how this movie is able to have some really, really, really heart-tugging moments that are kind of on the same level as some stuff from the first movie. I think especially Lilo and Nani's dynamic just is even better here. It just gets even more explored. I love all the side characters. I think the David and Bleakley stuff is fucking hilarious. I love Jumba in this movie. I think David Ogden Stiers has some genuine pathos that is really surprising coming out of that character. I think the movie, like, the best strength of the movie is the fact that the stakes are so high. But I will say that the biggest weakness for me is I kind of felt like there was a little bit of a repetition of, like, okay, like, they're gonna do something. They're gonna try and do something in public, and Stitch is gonna glitch out. And I feel like we just kind of like had that set up a little too often in the movie, and that in itself kind of felt like a retread of the first movie in some ways. So, like, the plot is probably like, well, I do appreciate the very high stakes of the plot. I just think that the actual, like, mechanics of it are a little bit repetitive. I will say that I think it's nice with Lilo and Stitch that, like, the music is just can just come so naturally. Like, just load that soundtrack up with Elvis songs. There you go. Bada bing, bada boom. You're good to go. But overall, I think the animation is super smooth. Genuinely, like, I think it looks almost as good as the first movie. I really don't think there's that much of a difference. There's some really beautiful watercolor work here still. Mm-hmm. I like how certain characters, like the hula instructor, for example, genuinely get fleshed out to be like actual characters. I thought that was really nice. Myrtle Edmonds, still want to punch her in the damn face, but Monkey, the fucking Hulu, the hula, Myrtle's hula with the commercial for her dad's shop. Oh my god.
Signs of kindness included with your hula subscription.
Monkey, I lost it. I lost it. That was just perfect. All right. So, yeah, like I said, if it weren't for the fact that I do think the plot in itself is a little bit repetitive, I think this could have easily been the number one, especially with my deep, deep connection with Lilo and Stitch as a franchise. I will say, I think it's very fascinating that, like, the first movie, for me, and I know that this isn't exactly, like, the filmmakers didn't exactly, like, go in with this intention, but for me, I think you can very much look at the first movie as an allegory for autism, and you can look at the second movie as an allegory for anxiety and PTSD. And I think it's a really interesting, the fact that, like, both movies are kind of tackling like different sorts of mental health disorders. If you look at it through that lens,
looking at it.
Yeah. All right.
So worth looking into.
Indeed. Okay. Kogia says the sequel could have done what Little Mermaid 2 ended up doing by having the villain of the sequel be the sibling of the first one. All right, guys. Look, I'm you guys can talk about the Radigan stuff, but I'm not gonna it's kind of a side conversation at this point.
I thought that was referring to like someone in Lilo and Stitch. Like, wait, who's crazy sister?
Oh god. Myrtle's crazy sister.
Myrtle's already crazy.
Oh god. Okay, Z and K channel says the spirit of Elvis wants us to write a song about a chicken. No. Okay, Kogia says David Ogden Stiers is in more Disney films than I realized, including the massively underrated Jungle Book 2.
Keep track of how many of these movies he was in.
Jungle 2 Jungle. Yeah. All right. Okay, Monkey, what is your number 5?
My number 5 wound up going to Aladdin and the King of Thieves.
Aha, nice.
With that knuckle accessory, Evil Lumiere should have been one of the Wolverine variants in that Deadpool montage. So, yeah, let's see, I guess going through the sort of lower things first, let's see, the pacing I thought could have been a little tighter, and Jasmine's not on her A game here.
No, she's not.
Yeah, we have some enjoyable songs in this one, like the opening number in particular is a delightful kickoff. And as you were saying, the big thing with this movie is the Aladdin Kasim dynamic throughout. It's pretty well done.
Mhm.
And also a shout out to Kasim's singing voice, the late great Morgan Ford.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, it's I think I would still rank the original Aladdin over this one, but nevertheless, it is it's one of the higher ranked of these films we're ranking here.
And you're right. Another Day in Agrabah goes so hard. It actually kind of reminds me of like an opening song from a Muppets movie, like another or a Life's a Happy song, or we're doing a sequel or something like that. Like it goes like really.
That's a good comparison.
Hard. Yeah. Especially because there's a little bit of a fourth wall breaky element to it with the genie stuff. All right.
But Tiki, although the bride is la-di-da, the groom is awfully low.
Okay, so yeah, we're making good pace with this. Moving right along. Let's get to number 6. Number 6 for me is going to be The Lion King 1.5. I mean, this is a seminal one. I really don't think you can argue much with it. I think is it like super serious? Is it like, does it have like a very dramatic arc? I mean, yes and no. Like, I actually think that the Timon character arc is genuinely well handled. I really love Timon's kind of like theater kid energy in this movie. And of course, you got Julie Kavner. And I think this is easily Julie Kavner. Yeah, I think it's her easily her most memorable non-Marge Simpson role, I think.
My favorite Julie Kavner as Timon's moth line read isn't even in the movie proper. It's in the virtual safari.
Oh, really?
The way she's, when you pass by Harold the Eddie, and she's like, "What's he doing in Africa? He'll melt." The way she says Africa.
Nice.
And I think at one point I was like, what if you did that, like, just whenever a Disney attraction says the word Africa, you have that sound bite of Julie Kavner as Ma saying Africa. And then I remembered, wait, Lincoln mentions Africa, has the line about all the armies of Europe, Asia, and Africa combined.
Yep.
Oh man, that was hilarious.
Oh dear. All right, okay, so I think the songs in this movie are genuinely like really good. Some of them are up to the same level as Digatana, especially. I think Digatana is right up there with anything in the original movie. You can put that into the original movie score, and I think it would fit right in. It's effing wonderful. Let's see. And
of course, That's All I Need. The That's All I Need song, the melody was for the original movie.
Sure. I do think that the movie just succeeds so well in what it's trying to do, and what it's trying to do is basically just be like a campy, send up of the Lion King, kind of like going through, kind of Mystery Science Theater style with the fourth wall breaks and everything, and and just having it just playing around with the continuity, and I think it does it really well. I think it's a lot of fun. It's light. It's breezy. It's nostalgic. The animation, I think, is genuinely looks really good. I just think this is one of those ones where it might not be the most groundbreaking one. It might not be the most surprising one, but I think it's just rock solid all the way around. I think it's hard to argue with it.
Pride rock solid?
Indeed.
Wait, sorry. Big pointy rock solid.
But Monkey, Pride Rock doesn't have a waterfall that you can flume down.
Neither did Chickapin Hill.
Did you catch that Dragon debate?
No.
Oh man, Dragon was with the Splash Mountain Lion King thing at Paris. Dragon was all over the fact that Pride Rock doesn't have a waterfall. I'm like, so what? Anyways. Are You In or Out is a good villain song, Little Blue, indeed. Okay.
They took the waterfalls from the Disney Hotel and put them on Pride Rock.
Oh God, I miss those damn waterfalls, dude. I stayed at I had the pleasure of staying at the Disneyland Hotel one time when it was like fully like the old marina and the waterfalls and freaking fantasy waters and everything. Everything. I had it all, Monkey. I had it all.
You have taken out the waterfalls. The rules of the 40 Thieves are clear. You're in.
All right.
I mean, without a waterfall, you really never have to brush your teeth. Okay, so are we going on?
Yeah. What's your number 6?
My number 6, this is where Bambi 2 wound up.
Okay, fair enough.
So as you were saying, yeah, some of the small child stuff's a touch cutesy, but yeah, this overall, as you were saying, is like watching these movies, this was definitely one of the hidden gems.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
As you were saying, some good the stuff with Bambi and his father, and Bambi learning to use everything, all of the senses. It's the movie has a relaxed pace without being boring.
Mm-hmm.
And you got some well done dramatic moments, like obviously the fake call scene, the lighting, and some of the climactic fights. Those overhead shots of the dogs going through the meadow. I appreciate the use of Chekhov's porcupine.
Right. Even if that porcupine scene did maybe go on a little too long.
I could see that. Yeah. Well, this did the whole I'm there for you, I'll always love you, even if you can't see me, before Bluey did. And of course, the Great Prince is voiced by Sir Patrick Stewart, so I can't wait for the dark, violent, R-rated sequel where within the first 10 minutes, the Great Prince says, "Fuck off, Bambi."
Oh, God. All right. That it?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Number 7. This is where Cinderella 3 ended up for me. And here's the thing with Cinderella 3 is that my thoughts are pretty straightforward. I think the first act is awesome. All the time travel stuff, all the shenanigans, all the twisting around in time is great. The third act with all the drama, all the all the action, awesome. I think the second act is just kind of like sneaking around the castle trying to find the wand most of the time. And the pacing does honestly kind of drag a little bit. So that's pretty much my only note. Other than that, I do think it's definitely one of the best ones. It definitely belongs in the top 10. Frankly, I'm really surprised it's not in my top 5, but that just kind of goes to show, like, honestly,
what the other movies mean to you.
Yeah, honestly, I think stuff like Tarzan 2 and Bambi 2 just stuck out to me more specifically because I wasn't expecting as much from them compared to this. And so
this one is like I said, kind of known as being the good one.
Yeah. This is like it's great, but I think just because of the fact that it's got such a good reputation, the fact that something like a pacing issue does stick out a little bit more to me than it might if the movie didn't have a reputation like that. So but still solidly in my top 10. Definitely a worthy sequel. Definitely a lot better than fucking Cinderella 2, which we'll get there in due time. Not in part 2. All right.
All right. Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, this movie gave us the Duke doing the scream. That's hilarious.
Z and K, I also like how I like in general how the movie uses the original movie's audio. I mean, in the fake deer call scene, we get the original mother audio just distorted, which I think is just really, really an effective use of archival voice recordings. All right. The only part of Cinderella 2 worth watching is An Uncommon Romance. The rest is garbage. Honestly, I thought even An Uncommon Romance was just okay. I think
Can we get that Bad Romance parody, Uncommon Romance? Make it about that segment of the movie. Bake the bread.
I honestly think people just kind of like are just looking for something to like about Cinderella 3, and they go to that, and it's like, yeah, it's the best thing in the movie, but it's
you mean
still
Cinderella 2?
Yeah, and Cinderella too. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. It's like Cinderella 3 kind of contradicts the existence of Cinderella 2.
It does a little bit,
Yeah,
yeah.
because they say, "Oh, we never get to go to the ball." Yeah, you did.
Right.
Cinderella 2. You still got to go.
All right, Monkey, what's your number 7?
Number 7 is where Lion King 1.5 went.
Okay,
the hidden Mickey
so
movie.
we're not too far off with that.
Yeah. This is definitely the point in watching through these chronologically where the animation of these films was really finessed.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know why, but for some reason I'm having a harder time grasping for words on how I felt on this one. Like, if it maybe not quite.
I mean, I just kind of feel like the film does what it does. It does what it sets out to do really well. It kind of speaks for itself. I kind of
you're not wrong on that. Like, maybe it wasn't quite hitting where it had for me in the past when I was younger, but for what it's worth, apparently at the time of watching it, I placed it in the upper 2. And yeah, you got the opening setting a fun tone, and otherwise, I think my biggest thing I have to mention otherwise is that the Friends to the End Runner has me wanting, a version of Child's Play, but Andy is played by Pumbaa. He said Aunt Maggie was a real bitch and got what she deserved.
Jesus Christ. Are you going to end every one of these with a joke?
I don't know.
I'm all for that, just for the record. I approve. All right. That it?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, ending the Lion King 1.5 thing with a joke. How in character.
Right. Okay, let's see. The credits.
Yeah, also props to Lion King 1.5 for being a midquel that doesn't call itself 2.
Right.
As good as Bambi 2 and Tarzan 2 are, nevertheless, it is still a little odd.
The credits to Cinderella 3 show that Anastasia and the baker end up together despite the retcon. Yeah, that's nice. It would have been nice to see the baker actually, be in the movie, I don't know. Like, what if Anastasia
the baker had to go get the cow as white as milk, the cape as red as blood, the yada yada. But
I'm saying, what if Anastasia had to choose between the baker and the prince and the power the prince represents? You know what I mean? That would have been an interesting kind of dynamic. Yeah,
I mean, I still like what we get with the he was nice to me. Oh, that's my heart. But yeah, that could have been maybe one little extra side plot too many, but would have been an interesting one.
Mm-hmm. All right, Z&K very much approves of your jokes, Monkey.
Thank you, Z&K.
All right, moving on. Let's get to
yes, Itchy Lot. Yes, I remember that with the teaser for 1.5.
Uh-huh.
I very much remember that.
Yeah, I do too, yeah. All right, let's get to number 8. My number 8 is going to be 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure.
Same.
Yeah,
this wound up being my number 8 as well.
Nice. Okay, tag team. All right, why don't you go first, Monkey?
So yeah, even if this in some ways doesn't quite always hit as well as it could, this was a very pleasant surprise for me just because of, especially in the first half or so, how dang funny it gets. Like, I was getting a lot of laughs out of this one. And like, say, the entire first Cruella sequence, or especially the way they mistake the Buckingham Palace guards for something else. I won't give it away for those who haven't seen it, but that line especially, it's like, you can't hate a movie with that line in there.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, and I thought, a decent story as well with the, the sort of two leads with Patch and the Barry Bostwick dog, and sure, also the Jason Alexander dog. When Jason Alexander's voice came out of that dog, I was like, oh, is the hero dog gonna be Seinfeld or Kramer? I mistook the manager for Wayne Knight, but it wasn't. So whatever. But yeah, this is in a way a bit of a detriment. It's just feeling so bad for Patch's situation at the start of the film, but But yeah,
Very much like a
lot
Kevin
of laughs in this
McAllister
one.
situation, right?
Yeah, I think I also wrote that down too. Home Alone. Yeah.
What I like about this movie is I really like how naturally it feels like an extension of the original. You know, like everything from Cruella going back into like that abusive relationship with the two goons. You know, like Jasper and Horace. I think that's fun. Just being like, oh
The
no,
car is still busted.
right. Like I think that's like very natural. Just all the Cruella stuff I just think is gold. I just think she's just as on point as she was in the original. Maybe not as intimidating, but just as entertaining for sure. I don't know. I think it's really nice. I think it's great that we take something that was like kind of like a memorable but small part of the original movie with the Thunderbolt TV show and make that
They
essentially
have
like
fun
the
with it. Yeah,
jumping
that
off
show
point.
has some fun glimpses in it.
Yeah. I really like that the whole show is essentially like one giant commercial for Canine Crunchies. I think that's really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. This is just a really, really solid one. Like you said, I feel like
It's a fun time.
maybe there's it's not quite as well paced as it could be, but I do think that just
I don't think it
overall
was a
it's
pacing thing. But
yeah. But overall, I think
also,
it's a
apparently,
really good
Catherine
watch.
Beaumont was an additional voice. What the hell?
Really interesting.
Yeah.
What?
Like, hey, we got Catherine Beaumont as an additional voice.
All right.
Also, I guess this is going to be my joke for this one, but there's that part where they mess with a window washer. Why does the window washer look like fucking Psy from the Lorax movie?
Oh God. All right. Okay, so yeah, crack that one out. Moving on to number 9, and this is where things start to get divisive, Monkey, because I will say there was between like 3 movies, it was kind of like tough to determine what was going to make my 10 and what was going to go into number 11. I will say that much. So sorry, let me switch the banners out. So for me, number 9 is going to be Lion King 2 Simba's Pride.
That's where my number 9 wound up.
What?
That's also my number 9.
Are you serious? Oh my God.
Lion King 2 Simba's Pride?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Funny, I thought I'd have it higher than you.
So I do think that this is the first one that we're going to be talking about that does genuinely have some major flaws. I think that the stuff they do with Simba, I think is borderline character assassination, honestly. I really don't like how xenophobic Simba is. Even if it's like for an understandable reason, I just think it makes him so unlikable in this movie. I think that the stuff with Timon and Pumbaa is fun for the most part, but I think it's a little bit repetitive where like throughout the whole movie, it's just like every 10 minutes, it's like, oh, you have to watch Kiara. Oh no, we lost Kiara. But what I will
meanwhile,
say,
Nala fills this movie's slot as the kind of just there after having a personality in the first movie.
Yeah.
Also, weren't her eyes green in the first movie?
What now? Sorry?
Weren't Nala's eyes green in the first movie?
I don't know.
They weren't in this one.
Check.
But I don't know. But yeah. And I'm not sure, the whole Kovu and Kiara befriending each other thing. Yeah, I'm fine with that. That's fine. I just don't know if I buy them being at the in love stage.
Right. I feel that. I do think that I will say that I think them like forming a romantic attachment to each other is a little bit more natural than Simba Nala, because I've always said that Simba Nala, they always felt like they had a little bit more of like a sibling dynamic in the
I can't
the
marry her.
stuff.
It'd be too weird.
Right. Whereas I feel like just the fact that these two like meet and have a memorable encounter when they are kids, but they're not like best friends. You know what I mean? They're not like like attached at the hip. You know what I mean? So and then
I'm not against them falling in love. I just think that Oh, would you
So I'm
really
just
be at
saying,
this
for them to
stage
go from
already?
that, for them to go from like having a memorable encounter as kids, but like kind of like an isolated encounter, to kind of like an extraneous circumstance where Kovu's saving her life. Like, yeah, I kind of like it's rushed, sure, but I kind of get it. I do think that Rafiki song is fucking wonderful.
Yeah, like the only songs in this I thought weren't strong were the lullaby and the love duet. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, this is where like, okay, we're getting some decent songs in these movies now.
Yeah, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
I think I like the end credits pop cover of the love duet more than the actual love duet.
I could see that. I could see that. Where I think this movie really shines is the villains. I think all three of them, the main antagonist villains, that whole family, genuinely some of the most evil villains that we've seen in these DisneyToon sequels. Like Zira especially is just goddamn diabolical in this movie. And yeah, Andy Dick's character, and I'm sorry, I know he has a name, but he's just Andy Dick Lyant. But genuinely, he's kind of a tragic figure in this movie, and it always surprises me that he actually gets killed off. I mean, that's about as hard as any of these movies ever go, honestly.
Yeah, I remember like when I watching this when I was kind of, I don't know, preteen or so, and like, this guy's funny, and you have the logs falling, and I'm like, more comedic stuff.
More slapstick funny.
And then you killed your own brother.
Right. Yeah, and I like how the sister is kind of a little bit conflicted. She's got a little bit of a Zola energy, where it's like, like she's a little bit twisted from the way that she was raised.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, this movie does a decent attempt at its running evolution of the meaning of "we are one."
Sure.
Yeah. Now, I mean, maybe it helps that they're vague on the exact reasons for why the Outlanders were exiled, and maybe that aids making the repatriation work.
I don't know, man. Simba's just a straight up dick in this movie. I'm sorry.
I mean, like, as opposed to some real life hypotheticals, like, okay, so how traitorous were or weren't these exiled people, or like, are these people that we don't, that for legitimate reasons we don't want in society, but we don't quite delve into that, and that kind of makes them rejoining feel a bit more not believable, not palatable, maybe palatable, or like it works more. And this is me just being like, bring real life into the talking kitty lion cartoon. I say that as if the original Talking Kitty lion cartoon didn't have the whole Mufasa Long Live the King sequence.
Right. But yeah, I think I just admire this movie's ambition.
Oh god, now I'm just picturing that the way Mufasa is communicating to Rafiki is like the Impractical Jokers communicating to each other.
Oh god.
I'll get Kiara and Kovu together.
Oh dear.
Rafiki is our loser, so he's in for tonight's punishment.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. I'm sure you got quite the rush of catharsis when Kiara straight up told Simba, "You will never be Mufasa." Yes. I don't know. Seriously, it's just like we go through this whole arc of Simba, and then he's just kind of a dick in the second movie. It's a bummer, dude. It's a bummer.
And ironically, he's not the one voiced by someone whose last name is Dick.
Right.
I mean, he's close, Broderick, but
right. Okay, I like how Kovu's younger voice was by the kid who was Jonathan Taylor Thomas, sound alike. Yeah.
Oh, is that so? I did not know that. Neat.
I remember the Disney Channel used to show these old classic Disney short animated movies. Did they? Huh. Slasher Fred, by the way, joined us.
Like these direct-to-video movies? I mean, I know
I don't necessarily remember that, but I believe
know I've seen one or two on TV at least.
Uh-huh. Okay, moving on. Number 10, Monkey, I want to let you know my number 11 is Once Upon a Christmas. And I feel really bad that it didn't make the top 10. especially when you
Okay.
find out what the number 10 actually is. Because, again, we're still in movies that I genuinely think are good. And god damn it, this might be the one that I think I might have the most strong opinion where it's definitely not the best, but I think this movie gets so much shit for no reason. I think it's a perfectly fun, watchable movie. Mulan 2.
Okay, I was wondering if we were going to go for 3 or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, I certainly wouldn't put it above Once Upon a Christmas, but, you had your experience.
The reason why I put
Mulan
it
2
above
was a bit
Once
of a
Upon
hard
a
one to rank
Christmas,
for me.
I put it above Once Upon a Christmas specifically because it's genuinely like a complete story. It's not a series of shorts. You know what I mean?
Fair.
Here's the thing with Mulan 2. I went into it knowing that Mushu was going to be an asshole, right?
Same.
Like,
Yeah.
and honestly, I feel like just going into it with that knowledge, like, helps kind of cushion the blow. And Mushu is not the kind of, like, noble character like Simba, where it's like he's always been a little bit of a self-centered dick. You know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily think that anything he does in this movie is really that out of character, especially considering that he does realize the error of his ways by the end. And
I'll have my thoughts on Mushu's ending point of this movie when we get there, when we get to my ranking of it.
Fair enough. I will say the two things that really elevate this movie for me. Number one, Shang is just fucking hilarious. Every time Shang is on screen and just how he's just growing more and more impatient. It's so fucking funny to me. There's just something about it that just absolutely like gets at my comedic sensibilities. I really love it. The expressions, the infamous scene where he's yelling so hard he has to cover his mouth, which is just looks ridiculous. Shang is just a gem in this movie as far as comedy goes. And then I genuinely really love the arc of the three army guys falling in love. I think it's so nice to see, honestly. Really quick. It's genuinely it's genuinely cute, you know? And I think that it's so nice to see that these guys, I genuinely think they're a little bit more fleshed out in this movie than they are in the first movie. And I think their personalities really shine in this. Is the plot a little bit generic and a little bit questionable as far as the messaging? Yeah, a little bit. It's, it kind of feels like the plot is just there to happen. But you know what? I kind of just view this movie as a romantic comedy set in the Mulan cinematic universe. And as a Mulan romantic comedy, I think this actually works really well. I genuinely like this movie, and that might be the biggest surprise out of all of this top 10. All right, you were saying, Monkey?
No, it's stuff I can say when I get to Mulan 2.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, just while we're here, did you realize one of the singing voices of one of the princes, Mandy Gonzalez, Nina from In the Heights on Broadway?
No, nice.
Yeah, what was this? A couple years before In the Heights, I want to say.
Definitely before In the Heights. Yeah, I think it was like 2000, around like 2004, 2005 ish.
Yeah, there must have been a non-zero chance of someone going into In the Heights and be like, "Oh my god, that one princess singing voice from Mulan 2."
Well, I mean, just the fact that Pearl from Steven Universe, that I very likely actually saw her on stage as Jasmine, is just a freaking head trip.
Yeah.
Because I definitely saw that show in its first year. I definitely did. All right. So moving on, what's your number 10?
Number 10, this is where I wound up placing The Return of Jafar.
This is all your fault, Jafar.
Yeah, this is the first one of all of these movies, so it really is all your fault, Jafar.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm trying to think. I think the biggest kind of note I had on this was just that the goons were maybe the roughest point, and maybe some portrayals across the Aladdin franchise that could have been a bit more, say, sensitive. that's a franchise-wide thing. But anyway, yeah, I had a better time with this one than some might have expected. Maybe I was just judging it more on its own merits than as a quote-unquote successor to Aladdin. Like, I know it's just 3 pilot episodes taped together.
I basically look at this as
a
pilot movie to the TV show for sure.
This is literally what it is. Wasn't it that it was just going to be that 3-episode story arc, and then, wait a minute, we could sell this as a direct-to-video movie, as a sequel to the big hit Aladdin. But yeah, this is I did have a good time with this one. I mean, also my other things, like some of the songs weren't always strongest, like most notably the Genies, but Iago's, the lyrics worked to develop his character. Jafar's song, maybe not quote unquote great, but it just uses enough devices, I guess, to make it pretty fun. It's the runtime is tight. Jasmine, unlike King of Thieves, is way more in line with her portrayal from the original movie. You get stuff like the flying horses versus the carpet. That sequence,
I really like the
Jafar's
visual of the flying horses.
Yeah, Jafar's curtain eyes was a great dramatic visual. We get some delightful voice work from Jason Alexander and, of course, Jonathan Freeman. And, and I don't know why this line isn't memed more, but Iago saying, "That does it! All the reports are in! Life is officially unfair!"
All right. So yeah, there you have it. All right.
Our best 10.
Okay, I'll go over some comments here.
Yes, comments.
And then after that, we'll recap our list one more time. Let's see. Z and K says Catherine's contribution must have been while she was recording Alice's lines for House of Mouse or Villain's Revenge. Yeah, I could see that.
Was this before or after Kingdom Hearts? Could have been there too, but
it could have been there. Yeah, probably right around the same time.
Going through these movies while I'm going through Kingdom Hearts for the first time, it is sometimes an experience.
Are you still playing Kingdom Hearts? Where are you at?
I'm kind of just at the moment. I'm kind of just doing some grind. I just defeated Sephiroth. Otherwise, I'm pretty close to the end game, but I just want to farm some materials first. Still fight the unknown, and then get
that Riku
fight. Otherwise, I'm mostly
second Riku fight at the Hollow Bastion. Man, that was the stuff of childhood nightmares.
Yeah, I'm sure I had some other Kingdom Hearts jokes for across the thing, but yeah.
All right, Z and K says, "Oh boy, talk about diverging opinions with this one." I totally acknowledge
this is what the Divergent movies are really about. The Divergent series, it's about diverging opinions on Mulan 2.
I totally acknowledge I'm in the minority when it comes to liking Mulan 2. And Mulan 2 is absolutely better than the live action remake. Come on now, at least give it that much. At least give it that much.
I haven't seen the live-action remake, but it would not surprise me at all.
All right. Let's see. Slasher Fred says Return of Jafar is a great sequel. It was the first time that Jafar got to have his own song. Yeah, indeed. I mean, the Prince Ali reprise was fun, but I do think it was kind of a shame that he didn't.
Yeah, Jonathan Freeman has done like shows on cruise ships where it goes through all of the Jafar songs that never made it in or ones that eventually made it in.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. Jesus, I would go on a cruise just for that. Yeah. All right. Z and K says, I totally remember. I remember totally missing out on this one when the trailer for King of Thieves mentioned the second movie. I haven't seen yet. I felt so lost. Oh God.
I remember once watching. I mean, it surely turned out to actually be Aladdin at some little art classes thing I used to go to, but for some reason I mistakenly thought the title was Return of Jafar. So some years later, I'm watching Aladdin. Wait, this is actual Aladdin? It's not the Return of Jafar, these events? Like the hourglass and the snake and whatever?
Uh-huh. All right. Let's see. Slasher Fred says, I don't know if you guys know this, but originally there was going to be a third Jungle Book that was supposed to have some animals along with Shere Khan be captured by the circus. I think I do remember seeing some concept art for that, actually. Yeah, that's.
I don't need to see
weird.
that.
I don't need to see that either. I'm glad that Dumbo 2 didn't exist.
Yeah, Madagascar 3 and Secret Life of Pets 2 are more than enough for me in that Tiger Circus regard, I guess.
All right. Little Blue says, I'm looking at for me. I thought it was a good and catchy song. Sure. What do you think of Iago having 2 songs, Monkey?
I don't care.
You know,
I enjoy his song from Under New Management, so
forget about that guy. All right, Monkey, let's go over our list really quick. I'll go first. For me, number 1, we had Tarzan 2. Number 2, Aladdin and the King of Thieves. Number 3, Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, The Three Musketeers. Number 4, Bambi 2. Number 5, Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch. Number 6, The Lion King 1.5. Number 7, Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time. Number 8, the 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure. Number 9, The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. And controversially, number 10, Mulan 2. Monkey, what do you got?
I've got number 1, Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time. Number 2, Tarzan 2. Number 3, Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas. Number 4, an extremely goofy movie. Number 5, Aladdin and the King of Thieves. Number 6, Bambi 2. Number 7, The Lion King 1.5. Number 8, 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure. Number 9, The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride. And number 10, The Return of Jafar.
This is all your fault, Jafar. All right. Okay, so big thanks to Z and K, Little Blue, Aquatad, Slasher Fred, Code Geass, Itchy Lot Productions. We got a really good turnout tonight, guys. It's been great. Also, Sonia Pantoja showed up. And yes, Sonia, I am very much looking forward to Beetlejuice. I'm very excited. Can't wait to see it.
And that's only mere days away.
I know. It feels surreal. Yeah. All right. So, guys, stay tuned for part 2. We're going to be doing probably one of these a week. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And part 2 is definitely going to be kind of the ones that are sort of, in the mediocre category. Mediocre. And then part 3 is going to be where the fun begins, man. Part 3 is going to be like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this one was already fun, so.
Yeah, for sure. All right, you guys are all awesome. Have a good night. See y'all later.
Granny's gonna grab ya!